Ah. Oh, I lost my agenda. We will call this meeting of Exec Finance to order. Certification of open meetings, Paul, that was requirements met.
Yep.
We have a 16-item agenda. Looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any questions, changes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Minutes from a previous meeting,
I'll suggest that we hold them until next month.
Okay.
Give us a chance to read them.
okay,
That was my fault, I didn't put them in the packet, but I took the packet, we stuck it in the.
okay. Public comment period. Members of the public will have a 15-minute block of time to comment on today's agenda items. Members may be present in person, call in to make such comments. To comment by telephone, please call 715-538-1894. Public comment may be extended or curtailed at the discretion of the committee/board chair after advisement by committee. Anybody here that wants to comment on our agenda today? Seeing nobody, I don't see a lighting up. We'll leave it open for a little bit in case somebody is trying to call in. County sales tax update.
Our collection this time was $261,247.86, which is lower than both of the last 2 years. But in all, we're still over what we were last year and way over what we were the year before at $2,096,105.35.
Questions about the sales tax report? Thank you, Paul. General fund.
There was no change,
Okay.
so it's still $2,987,394.68.
Okay. Any questions on the general fund? No. Department reports and/or requests. Is Joe here? I don't see him. We'll move on from there for right now. Corporation Counsel, Susan Fisher.
Good morning. Just to give you an update of departmental activities, to go through with guardianships, guardianships in general, and beginning with guardianships, they reflect an overall trend of aging populations. The numbers to date is pretty consistent with what we've had last year, pretty close to what we had, but we have had at least 8 transitions to new guardians over the last year as well, and that reflects the fact that these guardians are aging and we need to move forward. Mental health commitments are very, very similar as of today. We're at 40, I think last year we had 42 total, so very, very similar. What is different, though, is that between late July and mid-October, I've had 2 appellate briefs, and that takes up a significant chunk of time. So if you're asking what largely I was doing during that period, I was in the middle of briefing. Just as another note, I presented with Jamie Kurth, who is our lead behavioral health social worker, to the chiefs in October. We're looking to provide other training to law enforcement next year. Child support has been very busy. I believe that Director Wolski has presented or has stated that there are 1,300 open cases by the Child Support Agency. We have a fair amount of enforcement-related activities right now. For 2024, we have 1 contempt block, which is a period of time that is just solely for contempts and enforcing enforcing child support orders. Next year, we're going to have 2. And so we're certainly going forward, very busy, and that's taking up some significant time, but it's good. With other matters, all of the other things that we've discussed regarding Daniel's Law, as well as the tax foreclosure ordinance, those are still going forward. But one thing I did want to put on your radar sooner than later is that when public health merged into human services, this is going to require some ordinance changes. We'll need some changes to Chapter 2, as well as 11 and 12. This could also include Chapter 21, which is our, I believe it's our universal citation ordinance, and so it's gonna trigger more revisions and probably first thought, and that's okay. I just want to put that on your radar, that that's coming. The HIPAA policies and procedures are still going forward. They took maybe a little bit of a delay with the pellet briefing, but it was also timely because IT was able to perform their NIST compliance review. So that's generally what is going on for the department. Any questions at all about it? So,
Just one, you mentioned a 1,300 number, that's 1,300 in this?
cases in this county.
In
Open
this
case
county.
In this county. So it's busy. It certainly is.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any questions?
I don't know that. I know that's high for historically. I don't know what it is compared to counties our size. I can ask Ms. Walski. Yeah, I don't know though. I don't. Yeah. I can send her an email and see what she says. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Next item up is a bid opening for the RFP for county surveyor. Pam,
I'm gonna need your help, I'm sure. Should I just open them? I only got one.
oh, okay.
And I didn't bring the letter opener. And it's Cody Bromerick. Back 40 Land Surveying.
Okay.
And I don't know what else
If you don't mind if I.
nope, that's why I sat next to you.
Nope, that's okay. So he provided, it looks like a cover sheet, the summary of his experience and his background, essentially similar to a CV. His references, as well as his fee schedule. If you can recall from our opening schedule, we wanted to review the references. So there's no vote today or anything like that. The unit rate for the professional land surveyor is $84, or in the field is $114, and with equipment, crew chief, 72, technician 1, 61, a technician 2, or any additional technicians are $48. So that's all what he's asking for fees. He has I said a CV, but he has another more CV or resume-like document enclosed at the end as well. So what we'll do is, consistent with the schedule, we'll ask Ann to review the references, and then we'll come back for voting.
Okay.
We were gonna have a special meeting before county board.
I think that's what we discussed doing.
Okay, yep,
So,
like 6:15, 6:15.
Something like that, 6:15 work.
is that still does that give enough time, too much time?
That's plenty of time,
Okay.
that's plenty.
The only other thing I would ask is to look at how did those numbers fit with our budgeted numbers?
Absolutely, will do.
And the time frame involved, does he specify any, that he wants this much time, this much hours? Does he say anything like that in there, or does he
I
accept it
haven't looked-
as needed, or what?
Right, our current surveyor is 8 hours a week,
Okay,
and our contract that we have right now follows that.
Okay,
So I would
okay.
hope to carry forward with that, but I'll look.
to make sure that's
Yep,
clarified.
yep.
Okay. Well, let's see. 6:15, county board. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution to designate public depositories. Laurie?
Did you receive a copy of the resolution?
Yes,
Okay.
I did.
Okay. Did you want me to read it? Did you want me to read it?
We don't have to read all on the list, but the general,
Okay.
I think it'd be a good idea for everybody and the public.
Okay, designating Trumpealeau County public depositories and authorizing withdrawal of Trumpealeau County monies. Whereas a new Trumpealeau County treasurer and a new Trumpealeau County clerk has been elected for the next term, and they will be sworn into office on January 6, 2025. Whereas Trumpealeau County has not updated its list of authorized public depositories since 2019, and changes are needed because of mergers and acquisitions of some of the previous public depositories. And whereas this updated designation and authorization is required to conform with Wisconsin Statute 34, and now be it resolved by the Trumpealeau County Board of Supervisors that effective upon the signing of this resolution, the following 35 institutions qualify as public depositories under Wisconsin Statute 34.01, and until further action, as public depositories, and authorize the deposit and withdrawal of county money from these banks for all public money coming into the hands of the county treasurer in Trumpealeau County, Wisconsin. And it goes on to list the 35 institutions.
I don't think it's necessary to read the numbers or the names of all of them, but I assume you have looked into it and they
Yes.
either all qualify or you've removed the necessary ones and
Right.
added the necessary ones.
Yes.
Okay,
It mostly was just corrections for some of the mergers that happened
right.
and address changes.
Anybody have any questions on this?
There's more to read on the resolution.
There's more resolution, yeah.
Be
Well,
it
on this
further-
part of it, yeah.
Yep. Be it further resolved that withdrawal or disbursement from the above-named depositories shall be only by order check as provided by Wisconsin Statute 66.0607, that in accordance therewith, beginning January 6, 2025, that all order checks shall be signed by the following persons: Mary Martin, Trumpealeau County Clerk, and Michelle Rose, Trumpealeau County Treasurer, and shall be so honored. Be it further resolved that in lieu of their personal signatures, the following facsimile signatures which have been adopted by them as shown may be affixed on such order checks, and that the above-named depositories shall be fully warranted and protected in making payment on any order check bearing such facsimile, notwithstanding that the same shall have been placed thereon without the authority of the designated person or persons. And then we show their signatures on here. Be it further resolved that a certified copy of this resolution shall be delivered to the above-named depositories, and said depositories may rely on this resolution until changed by lawful resolution.
Move to approve.
Okay,
I'll second
second. Any questions on it? Not hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 This will be moved on to full county board.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Item 11, discussion and possible action regarding 2025 debt financing. And now, as soon as I find my notes again. I did put together a suggestion of mine. I did give, John, sorry you didn't get one, you weren't here. What's that? Did you get it in your packet, John?
No, I've heard it, though.
Okay. I'll start out with, I do not believe that a $7.5 million bonding issue will pass full county board. I would not be in favor of that. Also, I put together a suggestion for us to discuss here, which if you've got it in front of you, the items for the IT, the courthouse and maintenance, that number on the sheet I handed out needs to be reduced by 6,000 because the sheet I used to put this together had the snow brush on it, and that's no longer on the request. So 6,000 comes off that number. The sheriff and says everything as requested. The tourism website, when this first came out, I had anti-feelings, but as I was talking to Bridget a little bit earlier, I've been watching my grandson with his website and all his other stuff with his grass-fed beef business and see what that stuff generates from East Coast to West Coast. I think a good website is something that's necessary today, so I think we need to go ahead with that. Highway, the original had 5,369,000 request. I did have a conversation with Neil. He could live with 5 million flat and work around it and not be at too big a loss. Although I see Neil sitting there, if he wants to argue with that, it's welcome. Arguments are welcome. Which brings the total at this to 5,524,000, which left 475,000 left on my request of a $6 million bond. Economic development, I don't know where, the original request was for 250. I left 100 in here in my proposal as a start for seed money to see where it goes. I am not, my own research doesn't show me where this would be going and how it would be used, and there's a lot of openness here yet that I can't get fully on board with it. So I did put 100,000 in there for something to start. Then we got down to 375, and that adds up to a $6 million bond. Now then, there's also cost to the bond of somewhere's up to 100,000. So you put that back in there, and that brings us to a 6,100,000 bond, and that's where I start out at. Now we go down to the next part of the renovation budget, project money's for. We had 3,728,000 in there. You add this 375,104, and you get to 4.14092. That insurance rebate is still available to use. You add in there, that puts us at 4.282 million, which is enough money to handle the estimated cost of the remodel as I believe it's being discussed right now. So that's where I'm at. This other 6,000, yeah, that I added back into I'm sorry, I didn't do that when I was talking. The 6,000 that came out of maintenance courthouse would be added to the 375,104 to bring that up to 381, and then you add that in to those numbers. So that's my suggestion. I'm throwing it out for discussion.
We're able to argue about this.
Yep,
You
we can,
okay?
yep.
Discuss this, right?
Dave,
Well, yeah, go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
You want me to go ahead?
Go ahead.
Well,
I think we all
I'll just
want
make
to
a
weigh
quick
in.
comment here, maybe you'll all say that doesn't have a factor, but I just wanted to see it cut by at least $500,000 and just to start here, maybe poor reasoning, but our expenditure per capita, we're number 4 in the state of Wisconsin, behind Florence, Iron, and Warshaw. And those are all the smallest counties in the state. And I just feel that we have to show that we can get by with just a little bit less, just for those reasons, which maybe doesn't show much merit. That's in this little pamphlet here,
Less than the 7.
less than the 7.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Just wanted to be clear.
6.5 was my number, and part of that was, I was thinking the same way with the highway. We brought back that 300 and some thousand, and I didn't care where we got the other little bit, but just make me feel good if we can somehow back that off by $500,000. So,
Bridget, did you have something? Or Becky, whoever?
Go ahead.
Well, I'll just make a brief comment. I could probably go on here for about 5 minutes, but to be brief, I had looked at this very similarly to what you did, David. I agree that we need to come down a little bit. And I would say at least, again, that 500,000. But one of the things that I had differently in mind than what you did, David, was the economic development picture. And we don't have the specifics of that, but I really think that for the future of the county and to garner young people coming in here and all the things that we previously talked about, I think we need a bigger pad or a bigger starting point for that so that we can garner other groups in making a better economic future picture for our county. So my suggestion would be to move that 100,000 up to a minimum of 200,000.
Comments by anybody else?
I'll just say I agree more with Doc, and I think we don't even know, there's no, like I said, explanation of what the economic development is. And to give that kind of money to something that you don't know where it's going, and you don't, and we've never had that before, it's scary, and it's not doing the people's justice in the county when you put money out there like that without some direction, you know, where it's gonna go, or what you're gonna do. Economic development is it's pretty vast. I'd like to see a little more of I agree, I think 100,000 is, I think what you have laid out here is very good. I think I think the people won't object to it. They need the roads, that's the most important. We're playing catch-up. That's the bad thing. I know, I've seen the same thing, Doc, in that pamphlet. You know, we're high on a lot of things. And we're just playing catch-up because for years they didn't do any of the road work. So the burden is upon us to somehow come up with the money to do the roads. And if this is one of the answers, we have to have it, or, I mean, the roadways to me should have been something we should have looked at years ago, but they didn't, so now we're in this position where we have to do this. Make it safe for our families when they're traveling, and our kids, and so I think what you have out here is, I think the people can understand where it's going, and appreciate we're trying to do the best we can and keep it down as low as we can.
John,
I'd
you
like
got
to
any?
hear, Puddle.
You'd like to hear from me?
Yeah.
I'd like to poke holes in everything here. I'd like to poke holes in saying this is no vision for the future. This costs relatively nothing to the taxpayer. I'm not saying that I don't think that's valuable, but we looked at the tax impact, and that's always the most important thing that we should be looking at, or one of the most important things that we should be looking at. This is a very low impact on individuals. I don't have, like, this was added relatively late, and I don't like not having the numbers all next to it on how things are changing and what was proposed and not proposed. But I'll just say, taking the $1 million out of the building renovation and saying this should cover it, it doesn't, because the projection right now is at 3.9 million, not including contingency, which is another 400,000. Plus, a low estimate on Jeremy was putting in 350,000 for furniture. I don't see how you don't do the project right when, again, 350,000 is going to cost very minimal when you're looking at tax impact and doing the project and getting it done right. That's just what I will speak for. The economic development piece, first of all, bringing it down to 200,000 and saying that we don't have parameters on it, we're just throwing money out there. No money would ever be spent before it comes back through to you. And my proposal is saying that economic development fund in year 2025, the priority would be looking at childcare. And whether that happens here, or it happens in Osseo, or it happens in Trempealeau, Village of Trempealeau, or one of the areas in the county, it's a high priority, and people know that. And people I have spoken with in the community say, keep fighting. And so I was gonna let it go because this is your community, and I've kind of heard back from some of the supervisors and saying we should back off, but people have told me, no, the childcare is such a big issue that we should be looking at that and keeping, and pushing forward. And saying, so the 250,000 was identified to be put towards a childcare project. I had expressed the last time we met that that would take some time in planning because of the chicken and the egg thing. If we identify some of these funds, WEDC has said that they will match up to 250,000. So the problem with going with 200,000 is we lose $50,000 that was going to be a match through WEDC. We could certainly do 200. WEDC said they would match 200 then, but we're losing $50,000 from them. Just a consideration. My hope is to say, if that again, it's the chicken and the egg. WEDC looks to say, what are you committing? And once they know that the county's in and we're committing, then they're interested in partnering. It's the same thing with the foundation. It's the same thing with business. They want to know, well, what's the, who's committed to this? And so this is an initial commitment by the county to say, we want to further look at this. This would be coming back to the board many times over and being discussed, but it would give the opportunity to start the conversation within the community. And just to speak on this, your leadership previous to me, Rick Niemeyer, had the same discussion in 2023 already, and it's been ongoing in your communities. Whitehall, Rick Niemeyer brought it to personnel bargaining and to your board. He did a survey with your staff. Out of the 53 that responded, the question to if Trempealeau County offered affordable daycare services, would you use this? And 31 responded yes, 3 responded no. That's just for your county employees. I'm hoping to help your entire communities, right? Not just county government. I'm hoping to help the hospital so that they can keep workers. I'm hoping to help the school district so they can keep workers. But they're gonna partner. They have to be a partner in it. It's not just the county. And so those are the conversations, though, that have to continue to happen. And when I go to your biggest business and talk with them and they agree and saying, yeah, we need some of these things, I know we're on the right track. But there's got to be a partnership, and I'm a full believer in partnership, and also being bold in taking that first step. And a lot of times when we do that first step, then the rest get on board. But someone's got to take that first step. So that's my first piece. But I guess I think the plan that was set forward. Again, I don't have all of that in front of me, so I would hesitate on saying anything is solid in taking forward. I'd like to see that more. I'd like to see the data that Dick Seisha's bringing forward and some of those things. But I think we still need to be open to conversation, and this is a full board discussion. And if you decide to not take it forward, that's your choice, and I don't disagree with you making those decisions. They're difficult decisions. What I am asking you to do is to step out and be the leaders. Again, I think this is a very, it is a big vision to step out as a county that is very rural and saying we're going to support this vision to move behind and move this forward. It's talked about a lot in a lot of circles, and I definitely think that you should stick with it. But, if you, and I'll continue to push that forward at our county board meeting, but if you decide in the end not to do it, you are you are in charge of making those decisions. So, but I think that this is the right decision. There you go. Thank you.
Okay. I have just a couple minor, I'll call them counters.
Yep.
My area, anybody I've talked to, just doesn't seem to think that the county becoming involved in childcare in any way is what we should be doing. That's the general consensus of the people I've talked to, now I've tried to find something to back this. Our local newspaper did a poll 2 weeks ago. I wasn't happy with the way it was worded, because we weren't talking about necessarily operating, we were talking about spending money towards it. But that poll returned back a 3-to-1, 3 negatives to every 1 positive. Is it scientific? No. But it's a feeling. Looking back at your poll, you asked a specific question of a specific group of people that totals about 1% of the county population. The other 99% may not feel that way, and we have to consider where they are too. So
And I'll
I'm
I
trying
would-
to find a middle ground is what I'm trying to do.
And that's great, and I appreciate your thinking about this and talking through it, and I'm gonna then rebut that. A newspaper poll on an online site is nowhere close to scientific, it's not a reliable, it's nothing. I would not even weigh that at all. And you're talking about 1% of, no, it's a bigger, broader percent of 1% of the population we're talking about here in your county. And it's a very critical piece to the county if keeping your business here, keeping them working and in the workforce. So if you discount that, it's the opposite. I mean, all areas and area, age groups are important. But if you, right now, if we want to talk economic development and keep the wheels moving, it is critical that our workforce, because there's such a high percentage of population that's retiring and leaving the workforce, it is critical that we offer the opportunity for people to stay in the workforce as much as possible. So that's on the newspaper piece. As far as people in my area, again, you are correct, and I've said before, government has not been involved in childcare. And so I understand the discomfort and the feeling of not getting involved. But again, it is, you make the choice on not getting involved by crippling your county economics and your businesses. And I've said, I'm hopeful that in this next administration that we're going to see some changes happening at the federal government, but I put no weight and no hope in the federal government at this point. So I think at the local level is where we need to focus on making change in our communities. And so this is just my recommendation, is that I think it is of high importance that we're focusing on this.
Anybody else?
I think it's important too that we look at these other counties that are in our state, whether or not they have, maybe they don't have as much farmland, maybe they're more industrial based. But looking at that and seeing what they've done with their childcare investment and how it's benefited them, it becomes a clearer picture. Maybe.
I will bring that to the board meeting. That's where I planned on talking about that at the board meeting. And I'll bring a case that's very specific to, 130 new childcare spots being opened up. So I will bring that. And Jefferson County and Dodge County teamed up on that with the foundation to make it happen, but in a nonprofit. And so, yes, I will bring I was planning on bringing those things to the board meeting.
And, well, we would, as a board, the supervisors would still have options and suggestions and where that goes. But in the coming budget year, in order to move forward, we need to have that there for whatever those needs might be. And it's a significant amount of money, and obviously, nobody wants to put any burden on the taxpayers. But at some point, the burden for our taxpayers is going to become so huge that it's no longer sustainable. And unless we bring in some sort of economic development into this county. That's all I have.
Anybody else?
I did comment, I did receive my tax bill in city of Gallsville, and county taxes were down.
Yep.
And Gallsville, actually, everything was down, school, city. So everybody's pretty happy.
So far.
What
this
does
year.
that have to do with this?
Right,
Well,
yeah,
next
right.
year, I don't think they're gonna be quite as fortunate. And they're always looking to us, you know, why are you spending, you know, a lot of people just don't think we can, or think we can operate with
Without money,
nothing.
yes.
Which obviously isn't true.
No, what I was kind of looking for out of this discussion was some sort of consensus on a number that we look towards something in the less than 7. Is just some kind of consensus is kind of what I'm, my ideas can be all
Okay.
adjusted around. That's not,
Well, saying that, David, I would go back to picking on highway, sorry about that, but that 350, I want that 350.
you what?
And then if we got another 150 out of renovation, we wouldn't be taking everything you're asking for. We would have my 500,000, mine, it isn't really mine, but that's what I've been asking for. And
so you're talking-
think we
talking
should
a-
go with the economic development, which, I'm sorry, I'm arguing against you, but.
That's
the way
fine,
it
that's
is.
what we're here for.
If I could say, though, and to me, again, I don't, numbers thrown out and here and there, once I hear your direction on this, like if I could bring back several.
That's the purpose of this discussion.
Right, and I brought back the last time and saying, what is the tax impact of doing 6, 6.5, and 7 million?
Right.
We know it's very little.
Yeah.
We know that's very little, but I will bring back, like, here's a proposal, what we could get in a package of 6.
Right,
Here's
there we
what we
go.
could get in a package of
There we
6.5.
go.
How
Yep.
about that?
Yep, yep.
Okay, and then
Because-
I'll talk with a few people as I move that along and bring it to the county board so that we can, and then you can tweak that from that, and so that it's a
Right,
little bit
yep,
easier.
yep.
Is that okay?
That's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
is-
Just
Yeah.
one more comment on that. It's out in the public, the 7 million, and it just gives me that feeling. I know the impact is minor, but it just says, oh, you folks are
It's
really
the
digging into it.
perception out
and trying
in
to
the
come
rest
up
of the county
with $500,000.
that,
And $500,000 to most people is real money.
Oh, sure. And it is. It absolutely is. And I don't disagree. And I don't disagree that those are hard decisions. And, but I'm here to fight for your future. And I'm just bringing forward what I think the best way forward in doing that is. But,
in those
but
things, you know, the one thing I would say, highway must have 5 million. That's what,
I
they
would
must
be
have that. Other
More
than
than
that,
supportive of that,
Right.
even though
yep,
I battle against the poor highway all the time.
yep, so, okay, well, I think we've actually accomplished something.
I do too. No, I think very good discussion. Yeah. No, I appreciate it very much.
So,
I got to know where you guys are at. So, but I'll bring some concrete things for us to look
Yep.
at. Okay.
yep,
Quarles and Brady is working up the resolution right now for this county board. They're gonna have a number in there, so we're gonna have to tell them which number we want.
Can't we
Or should we put that off till January?
Can't we change the number at the
We can
meeting?
change the
Yeah.
number at the meeting.
They can vote on
That's
that.
okay. By vote.
So they're
But we
gonna
need to have
present,
it
they'll
otherwise
send
noticed.
the resolution that'll have the 7.4 is what they're
I
gonna
want to
send.
look back at that. Yeah.
Because
But,
I think they just put it off a month is what they did, so I think the number was 7.4.
okay, okay. I'll talk to Brian about that.
I have a question.
you got,
Budget,
John,
The budget we passed in November includes the 7.4, doesn't it?
I do not
Or whatever.
believe,
it's-
No.
I do not believe so, John,
Oh,
I mean,
a little bit,
it did,
To make it balance.
yeah.
yeah.
You've
yeah.
got the squad cars and things like that, that's part of the budget, yeah.
Right, it's, so I think it was agreed on, but you have to go through further steps and for it to actually be taken forward, so.
okay.
It's in there because the offset.
Oh, right, yeah, exactly, with that 400.
Leave that alone for right now. I have an issue with that statement because I was told that the borrowing part was not being passed at that budget. So that's what my assumption was in voting yes on the budget, that it did not
No, it's
include
not.
any of this.
Well, it gave a,
It is and it isn't.
right.
Borrowing doesn't happen, the budget's not to be there either.
So then the budget would get adjusted. Okay.
Correct.
Anything else on discussion on this from anybody?
Just one more thing. It's
Okay.
that there's no levy for the borrowing.
Yeah.
in the 25.
Right.
But the first payment won't come until 26.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep. Item 12, property and liability insurance renewal update. Apparently is Becky.
Yep. I just want to give you an update because this is, I think, very positive news, and I want to make sure that you and the public understand and get this, and I'll share this with the board as well. So we've been looking a lot in HR on management of different things, and insurance comes through HR, and really no capacity for individuals to really manage that and take that on. And so as we start to look at a business office, I just want you to understand the importance of a business office and that conversations happening within a set group of people rather than scattered and not having this more siloed conversations happen. And so recently, again, having brought Amy up from land management, she's been able to work with us on some of these financial pieces. And so the property and liability question came up on our renewal. And what are we going to do there? And we need to look at that. We're looking at, we wanted to bid that out to see, I really like to keep insurance through the county mutual if possible, because they are our lobby group. And so I think it's really important that if we can, we provide that business to them because they do a lot for us. And so one of the things that we did was look to bid out and see, we have a couple of other, insurance pieces in there. And so we look to bid that out. So looking at that and just having that information, we will be able to save $30,000 annually by taking that and bringing that under county mutual. We have another year on our contract with this other group, so we can't do that right at the moment. But in summer, in going into fall, we're going to make sure that we get those numbers updated, and we'll hopefully make that move over to county mutual and see a significant savings there. The broader thing that happened was talking about property liability and making sure that everything is updated on what is our property and what are we covering. And Amy, thankfully, being a part of that conversation, had that question, and she started asking questions and took it upon herself through our conversations, is doing a complete analysis of all of the vehicles that we have and all of the property that we're covering. For instance, the new building, we were significantly underinsured because that never got changed in taking on the new building. So that was a change that was made, but also took a significant amount of time in putting together a report on all of our property liability and checking to make sure, are we up to date on these things? And Amy found that we were insuring vehicles from 2018 that we no longer had. So to the fact that we're able to save $98,000 through that. So I just want you to be aware of the importance of this move that we're doing, and I want to thank her for all of her hard work. Even the insurance company made a comment about how significant a project that was, and she really put a lot of time into it, but we can see the benefit of that now. So just want to thank you again for that, Amy, and I just wanted everyone here to know about that.
Any questions? Well, thank you. Item 13,
All right, now we're gonna go
enterprise
on.
resource planning.
Yeah, to talk about this big piece of conversation here. I'm gonna pull this up on the computer also, on the screen. Okay, so as you're aware, I've talked a lot about this, sent you reports on this, and just saying, we're looking at an update on our human resource information system and our financial system, and what would that look like, and so we started looking at this in March already, where we were, and I'm talking about this team that's in front of you right here, a large group of people from the county, all related in finances across all of your departments. And so it's a tremendous amount of work just to weed through a number of these and doing demos and just to get the demo set up, you have to do interviews. And so each group that we met with took quite a bit of time. So I just want to give credit to everybody and helping out with this. So, and I especially want to thank Amy again for running. She took over on this, managing this and making sure the communication piece and getting everything rounded up and putting the presentation together. And so we got again, very helpful in having support services, and Amy's doing a great job. So anyway, all of these individuals have taken a look at these systems. I just want to talk about why are we looking at this to begin with. So with going to new improved systems, we're looking at improved efficiencies to make sure that we're consistent and accurate in timesheet reporting. Right now, we physically take a piece of paper, fill it out, bring it down to the clerk's office, and it's entered. So just for that to happen creates a lot of opportunities for multiple places for errors on entering data multiple times. And in a time management reporting system, it's the individual going right into the system themselves and entering their information, and then it gets approved by their manager, and then it goes immediately to payroll. Enhanced transparency across operations by implementing real-time financial reporting capabilities so that department heads know where they stand in their monthly financials. There's more increased payroll accountability. We can again see things in real time. Employee self-service tools for ease of access so that employees are taking more responsibility and go in and take care of things on their side as far as benefits. We spend a huge amount of time on benefits information that takes in Excel spreadsheets, entering information. And what makes me so nervous on that is just how many opportunities for errors there are in something like that. And so that's of concern. We're looking at long-term cost savings. I know this will be something that it's a higher cost to us to take on two new systems like this, but in the long term, there are going to be cost savings. Reduced time spent on repetitive tasks from our employees, elimination of process redundancy, and then optimization of daily functions. When I first came here, I met with all the department heads, and I sat down and talked with them, and I had a list of questions that I had for them, but every single one of them, I didn't have this question, but every single one of them, not everyone maybe, but almost every single one of them, talked to me about, we need a new financial system. And these are some of the quotes that I just pulled out of here that, you know, they're talking about that. I need to be able to see where my budget is in real time. It helps me make information or use that information for decision making. I think that's like a basic, like we all understand, like we need to know where we're at. A new financial system would help us with grant management. In talking just with human services, you've got a lot of complexity with all of that, and this a new system would help with grant funding and tracking. The electronic timesheets I already talked about, and how that would be just a reduction in time piece, but also in accuracy. And in HR, again, talk to you about just the incredible amount of time that's spent on entering employee information and then not spending time on training that we're missing, and that I think is a real problem here, in that we need to use our employee time better in saying that the individual who spends all this time entering data into Excel spreadsheets, her time can be much better used in doing personnel training that we desperately need here. So we worked with Government Solutions, as you remember, and I just wanted to share, they did give us a recommendation. If you remember this, it was a while back, but they did also make this recommendation to upgrade financial processing systems to an enterprise resource planning system, and talked about that. Oops. I give you. Can you give one to the mayor? Thank you. So I can keep one. So one of their recommendations out of their list that they gave us was, we recommend the county procure and implement an ERP software package that utilizes modern technology. When properly implemented, the new software will transform ERP environment into one that works as a resource of information for the county. So basically, you've got almost you got about a 2.5-page report here that talks about why this is important. So, and I think it's important to take, when we do studies and when we do consultants and have consultants, is to look at seriously their recommendations and how we can put that into action. So what can this do? It will enhance transparency, provide clear and accessible information for employees, as well as our citizens, provide user-friendly software, easy access platform for efficient operations, reduce paper, of course, because we won't have to do paper timesheets and such. We won't have to do invoices that are paper. They can be attached and put into the system rather than printing them out. Streamlining payroll just would take a lot less time again, so that individuals that are working in payroll can be used to help, like we did with the insurance issue. And we just found an extra 98,000 with an extra 30 plus hopefully next year. Reduces the data entry, strengthens internal controls, as I'm sure you can understand, again, the oversight and accountability, but also that we're not entering and re-entering things. The efficiency piece, and then helps us make informed decisions. So we looked at a number of systems, and so when I say, again, we started out a long time ago, it was, again, working to bring, all of these systems into just meeting with them and them giving us a demo. And so each one kind of was either really expensive or too complicated, or we really kept in mind that a lot of these systems, we want to make it easy, and we know there's employee turnover, and we have to think about that for the future. And so we want to make sure that we're bringing on something that can be a good system for now, but also into the future. So one platform that we did look at was Springbrook, and we did a lot of research into that also, and found that in the end, it didn't have a lot of use over other counties, and it was not, the reviews were not solid on it. So moving on to the recommendation from the review team, they're recommending Tyler Financial, which meets or exceeds the needs of all of the system functions and requirements, and the team met multiple times to talk about what was offered in each system and why it would work and not work. You can look at the list here. Analytics that we can use in the future and provide dashboard where we're talking about that we can provide information better to the community and to the citizens about decisions that are being made. UKG is kind of it's a well-known HR system that has our team very excited, I will say. As I said, we're very, we really need help in our HR systems. So one thing I will say, when you're talking about bringing on both of these, it's a commitment of not only time, or not only money, but time. And it is a process. It takes 18 to 24 months to fully implement, although I would think UKG might be faster than that because we have little that we have to really have less that we have to work with there and to change. But it is a commitment, but it also has a huge upswing on it. When you're talking about cost breakdown, looking at page 9, so implementation fee, this is really very possible right now because of the ARPA funding that is over in the health department that we identified earlier this year. And they are, we did follow up with the state and verified, yes, we can use funding for this. It helps the health department overall in their systems as well. So thankfully, we do have a good funding source with those ARPA funds. So Tyler Financial is a one-time implementation fee, and then recurring fees, of course. And then the UKG has a lower implementation fee and recurring fees. So the annual cost then, we compared to Banner, which has a much larger upfront cost, but lower annual fee. The problem, I guess, that really held Banner Finance back was that it just wasn't, it didn't provide the systems like Tyler did for the future. There were many capabilities that just were missing in that software that didn't provide for making this a good move, and especially looking at how we moved into the future. So again, looking at the cost comparisons on page 10. So you are seeing a little bit of a, why would you pick the highest one, right? This is looking at Tyler Financial and Tyler HR system, which Tyler has just started basically their HR system and offered that not too long ago. We didn't get through the whole demo. It was just that bad. And for us, I shouldn't say that for their company and for other people that have them, but we got feedback from other or counties, communities as well, that it's not to the standard that we need it to be, and there's no value in us leaving a bad system and going into another bad system. So that one, even though it's a valuable cost savings, it doesn't do what we need it to do. The Banner and UKG combination, again, as we said, the implementation is higher, but the annual cost lower. But again, Banner does not, and I'll let the team speak here in a minute to share some of their thoughts on where Tyler came to the top. And so that's where we end up in the middle with Tyler Financial and UKG teamed up. And the two do work together, and they will be able to share information so that it makes it a seamless transition of the information from the timekeeping piece and payroll and such, and then into the financials. So I just want you to know, Tyler's Wisconsin public sector use is very prominent. And, you know, so this is, I think, one of the reasons why that, you know, again, it's just getting used a lot, so it's had a lot of opportunity to make improvements in that over time. And we feel like this is a very good move as far as their experience with working in government systems. And then also with UKG, you see the same type of strength in being used across the state. And this is not, you know, anything that we saw in some of the other ones. In some of the other ones, like I will say, Workday, it's a great system. You have like Microsoft using it and UW-Madison, but you would have an implementation cost of about $1 million. So we just know that that's unrealistic for us. So those were the types of things that we took into play when we were considering some of these things. Maybe I'll have, who could, maybe Tim, could you come up and just give a little bit of background? Why don't you kind of just weigh in a little bit since talking about what you found and what you heard from the team?
Well, first of all, one of the reasons I'm even involved is this will go through my department as I have the purchasing functions for the organization that are the most lenient. We did this process starting like in April, started looking at different vendors and didn't feel that an RFI or an RFP was the right way to go because we had a lot of different unknowns and a lot of different variables, and we wanted to just get a feel for what was being offered out there. So initially in May and June, we were just trying to narrow down and find candidates that could meet our financial goals for fitting within the budgetary parameters and not being outrageously expensive, and then also meeting the needs for the organization in getting something that would do all the must-haves, the things that all the department heads have been asking for over the years. I will point out that in our Dr. King training day last January, the number one item that was listed by employees for what they wanted to see was a benefit self-service and online payroll data entry. That was their, out of all the things they could ask for in this organization, that was their, by far, the number one item. So this is something that's on people's minds. They really want to move into the 21st century on this kind of thing. After going through several false starts, we really thought Springbrook was the answer. The team made a trip up to Chippewa to see their system. There was squabbling between the Chippewa departments as to just how effective the program was. There was clearly some very unhappy people there that were hostile. And we discovered that a lot of the promises that were made by Springbrook weren't being delivered. Was that pretty much what we found? So that was abandoned, and that was too bad because not only were they, seemed like they had all the must-haves, they were also very affordable, but it turned out you get what you pay for. Then we looked at Banner, which is an offering of our current provider, Avenue. They provide our ACS system each year, and Banner does all the base things we were looking for, but it misses out on the things that are going to provide the efficiencies long-term. It's still going to be fairly labor-intensive. For example, it does allow for us to attach documents to a record. So when somebody's doing a process where they do a purchase order, and then they follow that up with the requisition, and the invoice comes in and we process to pay it, you can attach the documentation as it goes through, which is a feature we really like. Unfortunately, there's no way to search it from a dashboard. So if one of you wanted to look into it, or an auditor wanted to look into it and figure out how many bills have we gotten from, say, CDWG, they wouldn't be able to search the whole thing. They can only go into each record and look at the documents. So that was a huge whiff. They kind of got there, but they didn't. It also didn't have the analytics and reporting that we're looking for. We wanted to see dashboards so that when any of the county board members come in and they bring up the program, it's going to have the things you want to see. If you want to see how much spending the highway has had so far this year, you could have that as an item that'll show a little pie chart of what their spending versus their budget is. We wanted to provide those kind of tools for you so you can make better decisions. We needed to have a tool that allowed for budgeting processes. So when you're talking about what happens if we give a 2% raise for everybody next year, they could plug that in and she could have the answer for you in less than a minute. So those are the kind of things we were looking for. And essentially came down to UKG was the clear favorite because it really was one of the main goals of the group was to find something that was user-friendly, because you can't have staff pulling their hair out trying to use a system on the back end. You have to make sure that it's easy for them to use. They can use it from multiple platforms, and then they can go forward without having to call HR and, how come I can't do this? So UKG was far and away the consensus in that regard. Tyler versus Banner ended up being the two financial systems, and that ended up being the deciding factor was which one is going to actually provide the efficiencies and the transparency that we're looking for in the future. And that's how we came to that decision. And then that's all I have. If there's anybody else that would like to address that.
Stacy, you want to talk about payroll and how this can help?
UKG was beyond compared to anyone else. Really, I let HR girls go with it because they're the ones that are really implementing the insurance stuff. But some pieces of paper that we handle or things we enter are handled 6 times. So if they can do it once and it goes into my payroll system, great. That'll save time right there considerably. We want something user-friendly so when someone enters their timesheet online, they can do it and it will be accurate. And this was the best, easiest to follow option. Click, drop down boxes, everything that normal people look at. And I was talking about this at Thanksgiving, and my daughter who works at Mayo Clinic goes, we use UKG, that's pretty cool, that's great, it's easy. And so for someone young to think that that was a program is really nice. I did review Tyler Technologies yesterday. Don't laugh at me, Tim, twice. And, and I wanted to look at the positives. I wanted to look for things where we were gonna save time. One thing that really stood out for me was the fact that Sheriff's Department gives me a journal entry and she codes it to the jail, or not journal entry, invoice, codes it to the jail, and it should have went to the Sheriff's Department. She can go in after I've cut that check, change that invoice, and it automatically does the journal entry and it's changed. That's saving 3 steps right there. Talking to me, fixing that, entering the journal entry. It's just gonna become so more efficient where offices can see stuff. Highway will be able to see different things that she wants on her dashboard compared to what Human Services wants on theirs, which are different things. And there is a live thing where we can put the financials right on our internet as it goes. And I'm assuming at budget time, when you guys are getting questions like that, that'll be a great option for that. Anyone else?
Thank you, Stacy. Kelly, do you want to jump in? No? Oh, you don't, you don't have to. You don't have to. I just wanted to offer.
I guess I could just touch on some of the things.
Real-time financial reporting capabilities, this is huge for our grant reporting and tracking, and having those monthly expenses, being able to get reimbursed for those monthly expenses in a timely manner, following all MA guidelines and things like that is hugely important. Because we spend a lot of time on data entry and entering things onto homemade Excel spreadsheets to track this data, we don't have a lot of time to look for improvements in processes and things like that because so much is focused on these data entry components. Being able to have that information entered in real time and being able to look at things, review things, and dig into stuff even more would be extremely helpful. We all know time is money. So where we can save it with staff time, we will save that money and can look into other things. Right now, that's what a lot of my staff do because things are not user-friendly for what they need. You know, when we're billing MA, that is manual, which might not sound like a big deal until you think of every single client that Human Services serves, and we bill MA to get reimbursed for that. She has to do that line by line, by client, by day of service, each time. It's insane. That's majority of her job, you know? And with that manual entry, leaves a lot of room for error. We want to do the best job we possibly can, and we know we're human and we're not perfect. The reduction in that manual data time and time and time again will help reduce those errors. It makes reconciliation easier. Everything is transparent when it comes to reconciliations at the end of the year, any reporting to, like I said, all the different federal grants and state grants and all of that. We are more confident, it's more accurate. You know, that comes up. How do you know this? How do you know that? Where's your documentation? Instead of all of these homemade spreadsheets with 25 tabs to track all of this data, we have it in a system. It's less able to be manipulated. You know, we are more accountable to all of that, you know, which helps us all in the long run. Let's see. Reduce time spent on repetitive tasks. To touch on what Stacy did, there are certain things where one document is touched 6 times to go through processes. That's not uncommon, you know, and every time somebody touches that or has the manual data entry, whatever, you have room for error, you know, and then you're spending more time going back, finding those errors and correcting them. When if we all know if it's done right the first time, saves time and money. Elimination of process redundancy. This is something in Human Services admin that we are trying to look at more. Everybody has been so focused on, because of turnover and things, and we're just trying to keep things going. Where can we improve our processes? You know, that's a huge thing we try to focus on, but again, having the time to do that. You know, staff are trying to do the best they can, but then to stop what they're doing, let's look at these processes. You got to weigh the pros and cons of that as well. Saving just a little bit of time also allows us to do those things. Where can we improve? And I guess that just kind of speaks to the last point there of optimization of daily functions. The better and more efficient we can get in all of these processes, the more money we save. So I guess I'm just summarizing what they said, but it's all true for us, and that's it.
Perfect, thanks, Kelly. Anybody, yes, you have questions for anyone in particular? Is there anybody else that wants to talk? I think Amy wanted to talk real quick. Do you want to ask a question first?
I just want to know, does this work with the highway system?
This does work with the highway system.
Yeah, that's a major
That was the great thing about our big group being so diverse. Everyone had a different thing that they specifically wanted or things they were looking for. So we waited till we got everything we wanted, everything we were looking for together. What would provide the best?
I would agree with Stacy and Kelly. It is diverse and it does work well.
Do you want to come up to the micro, do you want to come up to the microphone, please?
It does make us accountable because we will be doing the entry and the work. The real time is very important. I don't like to give, oh, thanks. I like to present to the committee, right now, this is where we're at. But this system has a dashboard where you yourself can log in and go see, where are we at? Where's highway at? Even before the meeting. you could go see it. So those are some of the things that just they didn't touch on, so I thought I'd add. So.
Thanks, Diane.
Oh, and I spend a lot of time reconciling currently, and I would like to spend more time on other things that I feel are more important. So, thank you.
One other thing that I was able to talk to other counties, and a lot of the other counties wished they would have went with the correct system right away, because they have gone through several different companies to get where they're at right now, and that costs more money in the long run. So I feel our team has made a good consensus, and this is the best that we could do for our county.
I think that's why we had heard a lot of people with the Tyler. We saw UKG early on and heard about Tyler early on. It was the cost piece is like, well, what can we find that would be a better cost for us also, but still give us a really good product. But we come back to, this is too important to cut corners, and we have to make sure that this one is done right.
Question.
Go ahead, Bridget.
I don't want to assume, but maybe someone can speak to this, is that obviously when you've got the dashboards and you've got everything reconciled and everything's there, will that equate to less fees in auditing ultimately? Less time spent for the auditors? I mean,
It definitely would on the tax, because the invoices will be on the system, we don't have to go to the file cabinet, go, oh, where's this invoice, and where's this purchase order? Because it's all electronic, it'll just send it right from there to the auditor.
Or pull a year's worth of paper timesheets for them.
and then my other question is, as far as when you're tracking the grants, will this have the ability to kind of put up a warning for those grants that you constantly, annually need to reapprove for, so that we're not missing grant funding somewhere along the line because it just inadvertently got missed? Staff gets busy.
There'll be parameters within the system in order, and you would set those, so I would say yes, that we would have to give them.
Thank you.
You have something, Doug?
The only comment that I'd have is, it was great to hear that everybody that stepped up to the mic spoke of reoccurring things that happen now. That'll
the
end, and
the
obviously
positives
that's
of
gonna
it, yes.
save us major money, I would think, so.
That was one of my favorite topics.
We're always looking to save.
It appears real positive. Does anybody have, okay, from our standpoint, we're looking at 56,000 for 25 and 167,000 a year for the next 4 years. Can anybody have a gut feeling? I know it's pretty much intangible. A gut feeling how that might correspond to the cost in the savings.
Yeah, that is pretty intangible, but in talking, I mean, that's where your constant review of efficiencies and where people's time is being used can be reevaluated. And, and you can look to combine positions like we've done, or, if it's talking about eliminating, there are openings every day, every week that happen in this county. And so, it's realigning people that are already here in other positions. If we find that we can, I would say, I wouldn't be surprised to see that we could, save with, personnel time for sure. In the future, as I shared, it's going to take time to implement the whole thing. It's an undertaking for sure.
So, assuming we move forward as presented here, that will start on January 1st of the year? Is that our starting point, or does it take some time setting up until this gets in action?
That's a very good question. So UKG is, we would probably start implementation in February. We'd have a team meeting
Okay.
with our financial team, any county board members, however you guys want to address that. But we'd have like a kickoff meeting for UKG in February. Tyler is a little farther out. They're thinking early March
Okay.
before we can have that kickoff.
I'm assuming that once they get their processes in place, what they will do is go live with certain departments at one time. Say maybe start with 1 or 2 departments, and then they'll build on as long as everything is running smoothly. Maybe, Tim, can you speak to that?
Until we have the project kickoff meeting, we really won't know. There's multiple ways to skin that cat. You could do a pilot with a department, you could do a pilot with a subset, you could do a test with all departments using just the team where it's in a test environment. So we'll know more once we get the initiation meeting.
Not that the county would have the final word, but my suggestion is that you do go live in a small portion, and that's based on my experience implementing 3 different payroll systems.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that company will probably do that. They'll stagger the live
Right.
events.
We'd never pick a day like, we're gonna go this payroll on Friday, and then we're gonna switch to the new one on Monday. That just doesn't really fit with how we do things around here. I think current payroll staff might become homicidal. We don't want to do that.
Great work, though. I mean, sounds like everybody did a lot of research, so thank you.
And if I can just add to keep in mind that the ARPA funds we have available to help pay for this gives us, started on this project for free.
Right, yeah. Well, according to this, it's not quite free.
Getting started.
Getting started, right. No, that was another question I had for anybody, that according to this, added cost 56,000 and change for 25. Is that something in our budget, or?
It is not. It is not. So I had forgotten, previously, in one of my presentations, I had recommended that we take some of the interest funds
Okay.
to cover that. Yeah. Yeah. So in the future, so we'll have we have to support the old systems while we're converting. And so in the future, when we have everything into the new system, then we will be able to drop the old systems, which it's not as much, but it is somewhere over $50,000. So that will come off from that 167, so. But that, again, is for the future. I think Jay had his hand up.
I just wanted a quick add, because I know what Kelly said, and you, David, you asked a very good question, and actually I would be asking the same thing about the cost and how can you quantify that. I would say, Kelly and I have had conversations a lot about revenue capture and how do we know that we're capturing all of the money on all these different, we have so many different grants within our department, that how are we maximizing that revenue? And then dashboard-wise, how are we, because we can't easily see all of our expenses versus what was budgeted and everything. So how do we can't know minute to minute, like how can we tighten up on our expenses on the expense side of the ledger too? So we have those conversations all the time, and we're trying to get there, but it's so manual, and there's so many spreadsheets that we have and things like that we wouldn't need at this point, So I think it would help us. It's still not easily quantified, but I think those are some of the questions that then we can answer for ourselves. And then, like when Bridget, when you were talking about questions about grants and things like that we could answer those better too. So we're thirsty for a different system that would give us that information, that we could also get a better handle on things too.
And I don't want to waste people's time, but for my own personal satisfaction, if as you're going through this, all of a sudden, hey, we missed that last year, or the last 5 years, we found it now. This gave us X number of dollars. And keep an a running tab, just something to quantify next year what we saved. You know, I'm not talking about getting very detailed, just something from the real world of the people that we're facing here, that when they catch something, see something, hey, this saved us this much money. And just make a note and
Or the time that it allows staff to
To
do
do
other
something else,
things,
or
like
something,
write for more grants, or
yeah.
whatever it might be. That in of itself will garner
that, just to keep
Monies.
track for, you know, for the year. And then bring it back and say, this is what we did, this is what we accomplished. That would be meaningful to me,
Yeah.
and hopefully not a total disaster of workload for others.
Dave, what do we pay now?
It's 50-some thousand, I can't remember, 56,
56, yeah.
And we will be paying what, a year?
176?
167, according to this.
167?
Yes, please. Come up to the microphone so the world can hear you. Thank you.
Ready? Well, it was. The system with Tyler not only like makes us uniform in our financials, but it also gives a better picture of our budget. Instead of all these Excel spreadsheets flying all over and then we come together to one Excel spreadsheet, the system already takes care of it. It already has the budget line items, what was in the past, what you want to be in the future. So uniformity is my point.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, any more questions or discussion here? Otherwise, we have a resolution for us here. Someplace, right here. Is that it? Yeah.
So we need a motion.
I
To
guess
move
if
with
there's
this
no more
now?
discussion, a motion would be in order.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
That's resolution number, the leverage of the ARPA funds to purchase and implement the payroll. Yeah.
Okay.
Motion, second. Any more discussion?
Who owns that? Who runs that company? That implements that?
Which one?
The one that UKG,
UKG?
do you know?
Do you know? Yeah, well, right, that is the company, UKG.
I mean, are they out of like La Crosse, Eau Claire, or Milwaukee, or?
Colorado, Florida.
I know they're all over the state, but I just wonder where their office was.
Yeah, they're big.
They're global.
Yeah, when they met with us, they had 5 people here, and I think they were all from a different state.
Arizona, New Hampshire.
Yep, Maine or something, Colorado.
Yeah, they have, but across the globe, people use them.
Yeah, I
What-
seen they're all
what's-
over the state, I just wonder.
What is
Right.
UKG, the acronym? Is it for something larger?
I don't know.
It's multiple companies that were purchased.
Oh, okay.
Is it, I don't even want to say. I'd have to look that up.
Anything else? All in favor of passing this on to full county board, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. John, did I hear John?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There you heard him, okay. Okay. County Clerk-elect Mary Martin with questions and whatever. Have you found out what you were looking for, or you got more questions?
Good morning, I'm Mary Martin. Just curious, since I'm the county clerk-elect, and you'll be seeing way too much of me in the future, just where are we at with this being the exec finance committee and with the recent finance department being created? And I know it's not to its full potential, but I'm just wondering, what does that mean? What does that mean for the county clerk's office? What does that mean for the finance department? What are everyone's intentions here? I guess I would just like to know what you're thinking, so I know what to expect.
Does anybody want to try to speak to that? I don't have an answer for you, I know that.
I think
That's the big question, because it sounds like all the finances being taken out of the county clerk's office.
Right, yeah, so there it is.
Which
Well,
Stacy
who approved
does
that?
about 40%, I do about 50%, and the other two girls do about 10%.
So
When you go finance overall.
shouldn't expect that from you, then I guess, right?
So as a
Everybody goes to finance.
as a reminder, this is a couple-year process for sure, and so we need our systems in place for the next 2 years that we're doing already. And so we'll be evaluating during that time, but absolutely, we need to be doing what Paul's doing during the next 2 years as we transition.
Who approved that?
Who approved
To
what?
change, to move Paul's office out of there?
We haven't moved Paul's office
You
out
were
there.
talking like you're gonna, correct?
No, I
you're
don't.
creating
I
a
have talked
financial
about,
office.
I've talked about a business office, right? Yeah.
But
yeah.
then, I'm just saying, that's.
I don't
that's
know
just-
what
that's
that is for the
rough
future
start
at
here.
all. I really don't.
And I think that's kind of what Mary's going through.
Well, just kind of
Where's
like.
she gonna be? What's she
I am a
gonna do?
planner. I do like to plan, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, since
Yeah.
it's a 4-year term, I guess I would, what's a 4-year plan? What does anyone see 3 or 4 years from now? And I don't know that anyone has that full answer, but I'm just asking the question because I'd like to start planning things, so.
Yeah, I think Mary and I have talked a number of times already, and so I see the next, I can give you the 2 years that we've talked about in saying how the 2 years need to unfold, and that this is going to take a huge amount of commitment, just huge, and to move into this new system, and so we need you working in Paul's capacity for, however long that takes, and, you're gonna be a part of that movement of how things change or not, or, as we move forward, but for 2 years, for sure, it's gonna be a huge transition that we'll need your help on, because you're going to be a part of that transition as well of moving data,
Yeah.
how we do that whole change.
Okay, just wondering like if there's like certain, like by June of next year, you guys are anticipating X or Y or something, or if it's all fluid at this point.
To me, it's apparently all fluid because I have no clue of any details, but that's me. I don't know where anything else is.
Okay. Sounds good. Just trying to start thinking ahead and planning what I'm in for.
Okay, yeah,
Thank you.
okay. And that was it? Man,
No, Mary's been coming in on Fridays since Highway's only a 4-day week and trying, yes. So we have a lot to go over.
Welcome, Mary.
Yep.
Welcome, thank you.
Yep. Confirm date and time for the next regular meeting, January 6th. That work? Susan?
Oh, I'll wait for your done, until you're done, and then I
Oh,
just
okay.
have a quick
I
update.
thought you had a question on the January 6th
No,
date.
thank
No?
you.
Okay. January 6th at 8:30 in the morning is our next meeting.
You come in early, 8 o'clock is a swearing in of the,
Yeah, that's right, we talked about that, didn't we? Yep.
I just want to follow,
So 8 o'clock is the actual time to be here, yes.
Don't we have another meeting, you said before, some other meeting? For a
the
resolution?
county board.
you'll have a meeting before county board on the
Right.
6th, is that the 16th?
On the
We don't have a
16th at
calendar
6:15.
in here.
Yeah, 2 days after we get back.
What?
I said, yeah, the county board's 2 days after we get back.
Back,
I'm leaving tomorrow morning for 10 days.
yeah, so we're gonna have a meeting on the 16th.
At 6:15 on the 16th. Yep. And I just wanted to provide an update. I don't know if you saw Director Walski come in. She provided a case load by county list. So I can provide that information following up on your question, Supervisor Becker.
okay.
So I have that if you want to take a look at it.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. I will adjourn the meeting at 10:08, I believe it.